This week we have been in the letter to the Galatians, and we've been thinking about religion and in particular about how against religion the letter to the Galatians is. I want to back up today and give you greater context for the discussion that's going on. So the Bible is this collection of 66 books, 39 in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Covenant, and those give us all of the backdrop. That's sort of Genesis through Malachi. That is the Bible that Jesus read. That is very much the whole. It's all about Jesus. It's pointing ahead to Jesus, pointing ahead to the New Testament. Then in the New Testament, we get 27 books that are basically focused around Jesus. So we open with 4 Gospels, so they're not really biographies, but sometimes they get called that. They really focus on Christ's life, the last week of Christ's life, and his death, crucifixion, resurrection, ascension. And you have between the Gospels and the book of Revelation, which is its own apocalyptic kind of thing, you have basically a bunch of letters. Some written by Peter, one by James, you got a couple by John. Most of them are written by Paul. And then you've got the book of Hebrews, which is sort of, we don't know who wrote it, and maybe that's not a letter, maybe that's a sermon. But anyway, you've also got Acts and Romans. And so Acts is the first 30 years, it's the history of the church. And then the Romans is a big letter, Paul's biggest letter. And really the letter that he lays out most of his theology because he had not been to the church in Rome. The letter that we have to the Galatians, so this is one of the letters that Paul wrote. This is a letter that Paul writes after the Jerusalem Council. So Paul is an apostle, right? And he is commissioned. He is going to take the message, he and Barnabas, and they're going to hit the road. And so we read about this in the sort of the second part of, we read about this in the book of Acts. And he is going to go, they're going to take the gospel to the Gentiles. And mostly they're in what we think of as northern Turkey today, Galatia region. He's going to plant a lot of churches. And then Paul and Barnabas are going to come back to Jerusalem for a big consultation, the Jerusalem Council in Acts chapter 15. Because there's the apostles, the leaders of the church, they want to have a sit down. They want to talk through some of the tension points. And they want to confirm that they're all in agreement that Jesus has launched this revolution that is not just for the Jews, but it goes to the Gentiles as well. And they want to talk about exactly how this offer to the Gentiles is going to be made. And so Paul and Barnabas come off the mission field for this consultation, Acts chapter 15, and then they get ready to go back out. They have their falling out, Paul and Barnabas do, and then Paul will grab some other people, Timothy, later on Luke, and they'll head out. But when he's heading out, he's going to hear 2 things that are going to make him mad. After he's now out planting churches in other places, he's going to hear 2 things about the churches in this region of Galatia. One is that the Judaizers have sort of swept in. And the Judaizers are Jews who are acting and articulating basically a Christian message. They're arguing that Jesus is the Messiah, but they're getting the message wrong. And the way they get it wrong leads them to say to the Gentiles who are being offered the opportunity to follow Jesus, they're saying to them, well, you have to become Jews. So you have to embrace Jewish customs, you have to eat Jewish kosher food, you have to be circumcised, you have to go through all the sort of Jewish religious rules, and then, as you are a Jew, you then can become a Christian. So this is not at all what the Jerusalem Council has agreed on. This is not at all what they have seen confirmed by the Holy Spirit. This is not what Paul is saying. And so Paul's going to write to the Galatians and say, hey, have nothing to do with these Judaizers. They'll come up in other letters. He calls them dogs in his letter to the Philippians. So he's writing to them. He's also heard that Peter has backed off of articulating this response. So Peter, you read in Acts that Peter is persuaded, Acts chapter 10, Peter is persuaded by the Holy Spirit that the gospel goes to the Gentiles and it goes free, and that they don't have to, that they don't have to become Jews and they don't have to go through all this religious ritual. And Peter's been hanging out with Gentile Christians and everything's great, except then the Judaizers start to bully Peter. And Peter, it doesn't seem like he changes his mind as much as he just backs away from the fight. He just doesn't want to take the stand for the gospel. And so Paul is going to read Peter the riot act, because he is saying, look, we've got to have courage to defend the gospel. So the letter to the Galatians is all written in that context, and it is a letter that says we've got to get the gospel right. The gospel is not that we reach up through our religious activity to earn God's favor. The gospel is, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Have a good day.